Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. Today is the second day of January 2023, and we are on page 361, continuing Brahman, Purusha, Ishvara, the long chapter. It begins, Brahman, the reality.
Brahman, the reality, is the self-existent absolute, and Maya is the consciousness and force of this self-existence. But with regard to the universe, Brahman appears as the self of all that existence, Atman, the cosmic self, but also as the supreme self, transcendent of its own cosmicity and at the same time individual, universal in each being. Maya can then be seen as the self-power, Atma Shakti of the Atman. So, Brahman, the reality, is a self-existent absolute. Self-existent. It is that which creates everything else. By itself, it creates itself. It is not created. It is independent and eternal, and no conditions bind it. It's an original fundamental reality. It is that which creates everything. Itself is not created. Eternally it has been there. That's what I mean by self-existent. Okay? Absolute. No relativity at all in it. Absolute suggestion, no relativity, pure, infinite, eternal, no parts. It's just one blank thing, no features. Okay? Then Maya, and what is Maya? There is a contrast, Brahman and Maya. Maya is a consciousness and force of this self-existent. So Brahman is Sat. Brahman is the substance. And this substance is conscious, and it has got force, and it's got also power and force and ananda. But he is not discussing the ananda part, because when you make your mind silent and go to the second level, the spiritual planes of consciousness, you normally experience, he'll tell you that, you normally experience the featurelessness, silent self, inactivity. That's what you normally do. So the world becomes, you can see it in many ways, but normally when you see the Sat aspect, the Brahman aspect, you see the physical world as unreal, illusion.
But Sri Aurobindo has really given us a new understanding of Maya.
Yes.
It's not the illusion.
I'm not sure that others have not seen that, because the word Maya was first used extensively with a new meaning by Shankara. Because Shankara also used the word Maya, but in our Indian tradition, the word Maya has been used earlier, but it was interpreted as illusion, unreality. But Shankara goes back and says, no, it is the creativity of the universe. So, of course, Ramda has gone into much more great detail. Yes, there's no doubt about it. And he even goes to the extent of saying that Maya itself is also real. It is the power of the Brahman to create, and it is creating real forms. If you go to a sufficiently high level of consciousness, depending at which level of consciousness you go. And Maya is the consciousness and force of the self-existent. Okay? But with regard to the universe, Brahman appears as the self of all existence. Now, what does it mean by with regard to the universe? Because you can experience the Brahman as a transcendent. It has nothing to do with the universe. So when you are graduating, if you want, or when you are coming out of the body-mind life, out of and going into the spiritual planes of consciousness, you are still in touch with the universe. Your body-mind life is there in the universe. So at that time, that's what I mean by with regard to the universe. Okay? Brahman appears as a self of all existence, Atman, the cosmic self. So you can see it as pure existence, but you can also see it as a cosmic self. They're two different things. In Life Divine, very early in the second chapter itself, he says that when you climb to the spiritual planes of consciousness, you can see the physical world as unreal, or if you are in the cosmic consciousness, you can see it as real. And if you wait long enough, then you are not jumping to any conclusion. That is what Sri Aurobindo did.
But he does say that Atman is the cosmic self.
It can be experienced as a cosmic self.
Ah,
It depends on who is experiencing it. It can be experienced as a non existence, nirvana, or it can be experienced also as a cosmic self, infinite, eternal. Okay. So, Atman. Atman is a very wide word. Atman is a Brahman, or it is also can refer to the individual soul, because the individual soul also is part of the divine. Okay, so the cosmic self, but also as the supreme self, transcendent of its own cosmicity, and at the same time, individual, universal in each being. So, you can experience the Brahman as the self, the nirvana, or you may also experience him as the third level. That's what he's saying, as the supreme self. The supreme self is the third level, the supermind, if you want, that which is personal and impersonal at the same time. When you experience the Brahman, it is an impersonal aspect. You are in a state of peace, you are in a state of calm, you are in a state of sense of infinity, but nobody is there. No one to answer your questions also. And questions don't even arise because there is absolute stillness, silence. You are very, very happy with that condition. But if you are in the cosmic consciousness, then you feel you are one with the universe. At that level, both are possibilities, depending on the individual. Then you can also experience the Brahman as beyond the universe. And at that time, that divine becomes personal as well as impersonal. That's what I mean by supreme self, transcendent of his own cosmicity, and at the same time, individual, universal in each being. You can see that the divine is universal and also personal. And he has a form and he is also formless. That's the third level. Okay. Maya can then be seen as the self-power, Atma Shakti of the Atman. Maya, that means the physical world, and the movement in the physical world, you see it as a power of the divine. So, we have said this several times, but I am just repeating. When you experience the nirvana consciousness, the world is unreal. It is Maya, illusion. But when you go to the third level, this mechanical movement that you see here is his own power. There is a difference.
so Maya can have two definitions.
Three.
Yeah.
Maya can be seen, it can be interpreted as the power of Brahman to create forms. Number one. Number two, Maya is illusion. The result of that creating of forms, if you are in the higher mind level, you see the physical world as illusion, and that is Maya. Okay? In fact, in all Indian languages, the word Maya is used for illusion. But if you go to the third level, the Purushottama, Uttama Purusha, Sri Aurobindo Ishvara consciousness, or Sri Aurobindo is using the word Supreme Self. There you see that what you were seeing earlier as mechanical, unconscious energy is his own power. Yeah, Ishvari Shakti. Okay, depending at which level you are. So, it's not an illusion anymore, it is his own power. And this is the truth of the images in our temples and all that, what you call the Ardhanarishwara, half man, half woman. Okay? So, consciousness, force. Consciousness and power. That's the. In the Western philosophy, also they have experienced it. After all, it's universal. Everybody can experience it. But they use the words knowledge and will. Knowledge for consciousness and will for power. Okay. Maya can then be seen as a self-power, Atma Shakti of the Atman. It is true that when we first become aware of this aspect, it is usually in a silence of the whole being, or at the least in a silence within yourself, which draws back or stands away from the surface action. This is the usual experience of the Brahman. Whoever has had it in the ashram also, okay, they feel that they are outside the universe and you are absolutely at peace. Okay. You withdraw from the physical world. You are not part of the physical world anymore. You are not even part of your body-mind life. Now we feel that my soul is in the body-mind life. At that time, you will feel it, your body-mind life to be outside you. Okay, so that's what it's meaning. It is true that when we first become aware of this aspect, the initial experience, it is usually in a silence of the whole being. No activity. You are there. Or at least in silence within, which draws back or stands away from the surface action. Okay? The ones who had that experience, I asked them one day, one of them, and he told me, yes, there are thoughts. It's not that there are no thoughts, but I am not thinking. The thoughts are occurring in the mind and they are just ripples, small ripples which don't bother me at all. At our level, if the thought comes in, it forces you to act, or you get angry, or it has a big effect on you. But there, no effect at all. No effect. You are completely unconcerned with that. It is usually in a silence of the whole being, or at the least in a silence within, which draws back or stands away from the surface action. This self is then felt as a status in silence, an immobile, immutable being, self-existent, pervading the whole universe, omnipresent in all, but not dynamic or active, aloof from the ever-mobile energy of Maya. So the first experience of nirvana, you don't seem to have any power, at least you're not interested in any power, you're just watching in peace. And the movement is going on below, including your body-mind life. It's continuing mechanically to do whatever it was doing earlier. It is nature which is activating your body, your vital, and your mind. We think that I am thinking, but you are not thinking at all. It's nature which is making you think. Thoughts are being put into your mind. Emotions are being put into your vital. And the energy from the universe is entering into you and making your body move. Okay? So this is what you feel. This is the first experience. You are silent and the world is mechanical energy. Okay? But not dynamic. There is no power, not dynamic or active. Aloof from the ever-mobile energy of Maya. The movement is going on below, but you are above, watching all the movement without being affected. Not dynamic. In the same way, we can become aware of it as a Purusha, separate from Prakriti, the conscious being, standing back from the activities of nature. Okay, so there is a second experience that you can have. You are pure consciousness, but what you are seeing in the physical world is mechanical energy. In the first experience, when you are experiencing Sat, the world is illusion. In the second experience, you are the Purusha. You are pure consciousness. And the physical world is mechanical movement. Mechanical unconscious movement. At the third level, you are the personal and the impersonal divine. And what you seem to have seen as mechanical movement is the power of the divine himself. It is linked to the Supreme. The three are clear: Brahman, Purusha, Ishvara. When you are experiencing Brahman, silent self, the world is unreal. When you are experiencing Purusha, pure consciousness, the world is mechanical energy. Maya, Prakriti. When you experience the Ishvara, this is Shakti. The world is pure energy of the divine. The gradation is clear. The three levels. But this is an exclusive concentration which limits itself to a spiritual status and puts away from it all activity in order to realize the freedom of Brahman, the self-existent reality, from all limitation by its own action and manifestation. So, you may ask, if you are able to get the inactive part of the Brahman and the active part of Brahman, why is it like that? That is to explain to you that the divine is not linked, or he is not conditioned by the universe. He is creating the universe and he is part of the universe also, but he can also stand apart and not be affected by the universe. When we are creating something, there is a link between you and what you have created.
It always seems to be.
Exactly. So if you have written a poem, the poem is yours. But when the divine is creating the world, he can take a stance which have nothing to do with the world. That's what he's saying. If that is not there, then you are limited by the world. So the first experience comes to tell you that the divine is not limited by anything, not even what he has created. Okay. Then the link comes with the creation. Yes, it is my own power by which I have done this. That's what he's saying. The three levels. Okay. It's an essential realization, but not the total realization. The total realization is at the third level. The Brahman, the divine, can be personal, he can have a form, he can be impersonal, he can have no form, he can take any form that you approach him with. If you want to approach him with, as if you are a Christian and you approach him with the idea of Christ, you will see him as Christ. If you are a Buddhist, you will see him as Buddha.
But he does say it's an essential realization.
Yes, it's an essential.
But not total.
Essential, but not peripheral. Whereas if you go to you see the whole. For we can see that the conscious power, the Shakti that acts and creates, is not other than the Maya or all knowledge of Brahman. It is the power of the self. Prakriti is the working of the Purusha, conscious being active by its own nature. The duality then of soul and world energy, silent self and creative power of the spirit, is not really something dual and separate, it is biune. So, although you can experience it as separate, it is really not separate. If you go to a sufficiently high level of consciousness, you will see that they are linked and they are essentially one separating out, just like the prism which breaks up the light. Okay, blue, green and all they seem to be separate colors, but they are actually one. If you go sufficiently high, you go to the prism and go beyond the prism, there is only white light. They are all connected. Consciousness and knowledge are really the same thing.
Today I recorded chapter 8 of Essays on the Gita. Very difficult. The Sankhya and very difficult to understand.
I can mention it right now, okay? Since you are saying that. Okay. 3 experiences: Brahman, Purusha, Ishvara, Maya, Prakriti, Shakti. Brahman corresponds to Maya, Purusha corresponds to Prakriti, Ishvara corresponds to Shakti. The same thing is seen in three different ways. Okay. So the first one, when you are seeing, your consciousness is experiencing the Sat, okay, the substance, which is absolutely real, but it is featureless. No color, no form, no shape, impossible to describe. But the only thing is totally real and pure and infinite and eternal. The world then seems to be illusion. It's only movement, shadow forms, silhouettes. Sometimes use the word silhouette, no substance. Okay? So that's the first experience. That experience comes to show you that the divine is free enough to be separated from what he has created. That's the first experience. Then, if you experience the consciousness part, then you experience this as the mechanical energy Prakriti. Prakriti means a mechanical energy. So the first experience leads you to the Mayavada philosophy. The second experience leads you to the Sankhya philosophy. The Sankhya Purusha Prakriti. And the Sankhya philosophy ends with that. The ultimate reality is twofold, not one. Then you go to the Ishvara consciousness, the third one. The world, mechanical energy of the world is nothing but the power of the divine. So that's the Advaita philosophy. So depending on which aspect you are seeing. The whole chapter on that Sankhya, Yoga and Vedanta in the Essence of
that
Gita
chapter,
is just
yeah.
this.
Yes.
Just this. But the funny part is that they seem to be three different philosophies, but the Gita is combining all of them and using all of them.
Yes.
Synthesizing. How it does that, we will see in that class.
Very good.
The duality then of soul and world energy, silent self and the creative power of the spirit, is not really something dual and separate. It is biune. Now, biune is interesting. It is not dual. It is two in one. Biune.
Bayun. Yes.
When you say triune also, it means three in one. They are one at the same time. At another level, you can see them as three. Okay, so as we cannot separate fire and the power of fire, it has been said, so we cannot separate the divine reality and its cosmic force. Chit Shakti, this first realization of self as something intensely silent and purely static, is not the whole truth of it. That's only the first experience. There can also be a realization of self in its power. Self as a condition of world activity and world existence. So all these experiences are possible. Depends on the individual. One of the I might also mention, because I'm not saying anything wrong, Sadguru is still living, and his experience was that of the cosmic consciousness. Okay, and he didn't see the physical world as unreal. He saw it. He is connecting. He is living in the physical world, and there is bliss, and there is also power. So that is also possible to experience. In Sri Aurobindo case, it was very strong realization that the physical world is unreal. And then he waited patiently because he says this cannot be the ultimate experience. And then he sees that yes, it's only one way of experiencing the reality. There are other ways. The whole chapter here is three ways to experience the reality. First experience, you are in a consciousness which is absolutely real. The world is unreal. The second experience, you are in a consciousness. You are fully conscious. The world is unconscious. Purusha Prakriti. And the third one is the supreme. You are everything. You are this and that. You are the mobile and the immobile. You are the personal aspect of the divine and the impersonal aspect. Then you see the physical world not as illusion, not as mechanical energy, but a power of the divine. This is the whole picture. So, however, The self is a fundamental aspect of Brahman, but with a certain stress on its impersonality. Okay? Therefore, the power of the self has the appearance of a force that acts automatically with the self sustaining it, witness and support, an originator and enjoyer of its activities, but not involved in them for a moment. Totally separate. The first two experiences. As soon as we become aware of the self, we are conscious of it as eternal, unborn, unembodied, uninvolved in its workings. It can be felt within the form of being, but also as enveloping it, as above it, surveying embodiment from above, adhyaksha. Okay? So, you can have the experience of this, you can feel the silence within yourself, you can feel it around you, you can feel it outside the universe. That's what he's saying. It can be, so many variations are there.
And nature with a capital N
Yes,
is Prakriti.
when you think of it as nature, okay, normally you understand it as mechanical energy.
Mhm.
The tree is growing, the
But
river is flowing.
creative mechanical
Yes.
energy.
Nature is creating,
Yes.
but mechanically it is
Okay.
going on creating. That's what
Yes.
you see. Actually, it is not. There is consciousness in, it's not mechanical, but it is hiding. It depends on how you are seeing. Okay? Adhyaksha. Adhyaksha, Adhi Aksha. It means you are supervising. You are watching and supervising. You are just watching everything without judgment. That's the experience of the Purusha Prakriti. Also the self. Witness is the first one. The second one also, part of the witness is there, but you are in consciousness and you see, when you are the witness, very often you will see the physical world as unreal. But when you are in the Purusha consciousness, the physical world is not unreal, but mechanical energy. The third one, it's the power of the divine. It's neither illusion nor mechanical energy, it is fully conscious. Conscious power creating the world. So, three ways of experiencing the self. It can be felt within the form of being, within yourself. It can also be as enveloping it. You see it all around you, the peace and the calm and the self. As above it, you are above it. Surveying its embodiment from above, adhyaksha. It is omnipresent, the same in everything, infinite and pure and intangible forever. This self can be experienced as the self of the individual, the self of the thinker, doer, enjoyer. But even so, it always has this greater character. It's what is the greater character? Individual and universal, personal and impersonal. Its individuality is at the same time a vast universality, or very readily passes into that. And the next step to that is a sheer transcendence, or a complete and ineffable passing into the absolute. So all these variations are possible. But basically these are the three experiences. There can be combinations of them depending on the individual nature. Okay? Or a complete and ineffable passing into the absolute. The self is that aspect of the Brahman in which it is intimately felt as at once individual, cosmic, and transcendent of the universe. So that also is possible. That's a Purushottama. The realization of the self is a straight and swift way towards individual liberation, a static universality, a nature transcendence. You're going beyond the nature. At the same time, there is a realization of self in which it is felt not only sustaining and pervading and enveloping all things, but constituting everything and identified in a free identity with all its becomings in nature. So, this is in the Upanishads, it is given as the one in the many. You can experience this in three ways: the supreme and the physical world. The one, the divine, in the many. It is there in you, in me, even in this table, in a stone. It is there everywhere. The one in the many. This is one experience you can have. But there is another experience. You can see the many in the one. He seems to envelop the whole cosmos. Everything is within him. That sonnet of Sri Aurobindo. Okay? Remember? Arcturus and Belphegor are burning within me.
Yes.
Okay? So that's the experience of the many in the one. This is the legend of Sri Krishna. When he is a child, he is curious and he is putting mud in his mouth. And his mother comes and tells him, "What are you doing? Let me see what you put in your mouth. Open your mouth." And she sees the whole universe in his mouth. Brahmanda. So this is the experience of the many in the one. The whole universe is there in him. Okay? So then that's another. And now Srimad is saying, sustaining and pervading and everything, but constituting everything and identified in a free identity. The third experience is the one becoming the many. The one itself has become everything. In the Life Divine, in the first chapter itself, he is telling you that the matter is not something different from the divine. It is the same. First he says it is a clothing of the divine. The divine is using it as a clothing. Then he says it is not even that. It is the Brahman himself. In the first chapter itself, in the first page, second paragraph, I think he said that. Okay? So, he can use it as something in which he is dwelling. He can use it as a veil, but he himself has created. The veil itself is him. So, this is in the Upanishads you have this. The one in the many in the one, and the one becoming the many. It is itself the same thing. Okay? So that's what it means here, a different word. Now read that sentence again, you will see that. At the same time, there is a realization of self in which it is felt not only sustaining and pervading and enveloping all things, but constituting everything and identified in a free identity with all its becomings in nature. So, enveloping all things is the many in the one. The one is including all things, enveloping all things. So, the one in the many in the one, and the one becoming the many. Okay? Even so, freedom and impersonality are always the character of the self. There is no appearance of subjection to the workings of its own power in the universe, such as the apparent subjection of the Purusha to Prakriti. To realize the self is to realize the eternal freedom of the spirit. So it can be experienced in so many different ways.
So the apparent subjection of the Purusha to Prakriti.
That's our condition.
Yes.
I'm not aware of the soul, and the soul is conditioned. It is obstructed, limited by the body-mind life. Even when you realize your own soul, okay, you will feel that the body-mind life is a drag on you. He has himself subjected himself to the prison house of body-mind life. But you can experience it as not that. That's what he's saying. It's apparent means that's exactly. The self has, by its own choice, entered into the prison house. So it can free itself. That's liberation. And how do you do that? Yoga.
But the self entering into the prison house. What about these early stages of birth? From the animal to human.
So The divine has imprisoned himself in matter, in the atom. But because he is divine, there is a push upwards. And that push is what we read in Savitri yesterday.
Yes.
Unconscious, okay, mechanical, vague. A push. That's what we read yesterday on Saturday.
Yes.
So he is there right in matter and doesn't know, but there is something bothering him and he wants to come out. That is the description he has given yesterday, what we read in Savitri. So he is there right in matter. But when he has come there, he is sleeping. He has purposely put himself there to escape. Why? It's a game he is playing with himself. But as I said, you can always argue against it. What sort of a game is this? A game of suffering? What nonsense. What are you talking about?
A game of evil and violence.
But so you have to explain another way. So the explanation at a mental level is never satisfactory. But with a little bit of stretch of imagination, you can accept it. Okay? That completes the para. The conscious being, Purusha. This is the second experience. The first experience is Brahman, illusion of the world. The second one is conscious being. You feel yourself to be a person, personal aspect. Okay. In the first experience of the Brahman, it's impersonal. You are there everywhere. Your ego has disappeared and you are there everywhere. You seem to be there everywhere. There is no location for you. But in the second experience, you feel yourself to be a person. Conscious being, Purusha, is the self as originator, witness, support, and lord and enjoyer of the forms and works of nature. So this is absolutely from the Gita, okay, the Bhagavad Gita. So conscious being, Purusha, is the self as originator. He is the one who is originating the universe. Witness, he is the witness. He can be detached from the world and only watch it. But another level, he is also so. I seem to be different, but actually there is a link. That's a support. He's supporting you. Just like a parent supports his children. There is apparently no link, but he is supporting it. Okay? Lord, that's the Ishvara. You become master of it. That all these are possible. Enjoyer, Bhokta. These are the words in the Gita. Very clearly, these distinctions are given. Okay? Bharta. The support is the Bharta, Ishvara, and enjoyer is the Bhokta, the one who enjoys all the works of nature. So all these are possible experiences. You can feel yourself to be separate, you are the witness. You can feel that no, I only have created my body, mind, life, there is a link, you are the support. Then you can also feel that these things have been created by me for my enjoyment. So then you are the enjoyer.
Have you met many in the ashram who experienced all three?
No. They may have experienced, but I have not met any. But in a very general way, one can say that there can be ascetic tendencies in which there is no enjoyment, but you want only peace, calm, knowledge. There is no enjoyment. But there are others who may not have attachments, but they enjoy everything. Okay? Narad was one such. And Amar also was one such. I don't know. I don't know if attachments is likely to be there. Okay? But it's possible to enjoy without attachment. Amar used to enjoy ice cream. Narada used to enjoy good food. He used to also enjoy good games. He used to play himself tennis and he used to come to our house to watch TV, tennis as well as football and cricket.
But no attachment.
No, attachment may not have been there. And even attachment has got gradations.
True.
You can be very attached, so attached that if what you desire is not there, you'll have a revolt. That's also possible. Or you may be attached, but if it doesn't come, it's okay. And the last one is, it makes no difference to me at all. Okay. Okay, we read the next this para. The conscious being, Purusha, is the self as originator, witness, support, and lord and enjoyer of the forms and the works of nature. So you can enjoy, or you may be absolutely devoid of all enjoyment. You are only peace and calm. Okay, so as the aspect of self is in its essential character transcendental, even when involved and identified with its universal and individual becomings, so the Purusha aspect is characteristically universal individual and intimately connected with nature, even when separated from her. For this conscious spirit, while retaining its impersonality and eternity, its universality, puts on at the same time a more personal aspect. There is a footnote, we'll read that footnote later. It is the impersonal personal being in nature from whom it is not altogether detached, for it is always coupled with her. Nature acts for the Purusha and by its sanction, for its will and pleasure. The conscious being imparts its consciousness to the energy we call nature, receives in that consciousness her workings as in a mirror, accepts the forms which she, the executive cosmic force, creates and imposes on it, gives or withdraws its sanction from her movements. The experience of Purusha Prakriti, the spirit or conscious being in its relations to nature, is of immense pragmatic importance. For on these relations, the whole play of the consciousness depends in the embodied being. If the Purusha in us is passive and allows nature to act, accepting all she imposes on him, giving a constant automatic sanction, then the soul in mind, life, body, the mental, vital, physical being in us becomes subject to our nature, ruled by its formation, driven by its activities. That is the normal state of our ignorance. If the Purusha in us becomes aware of itself as a witness and stands back from nature, that is the first step to the soul's freedom. For it becomes detached, and it is possible then to know nature and her processes in all independence, since we are no longer involved in her works, to accept or not to accept, to make the sanction no longer automatic but free and effective. We can choose what she shall do or not do in us, or we can stand back altogether from her works and withdraw into the self's spiritual silence, or we can reject her present formations and rise to a spiritual level of existence, from there recreate our existence. The Purusha can cease to be subject, Anisha, and become lord of its nature, Ishvara. So, he has given all the three in one stage. But for clarity's sake, we will discuss this next time. But basically, what he's saying is that depending at which level you can experience all these things, the soul in you has purposely chosen to be here, but it is not subject. It has a free will to escape. And when it escapes, this is the description that he has given.
I'd like to ask you about the being who loves all this earth, even the darkness. It sees something positive in that. The lover of flowers, the lover of music, the lover of poetry, literature. Even though it's in body, life, and mind, that initial stage, can you speak a little on that?
I don't know if one can enjoy without spiritual consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
But in that case, you are attached. There is attachment. I can enjoy. But if there is attachment and ego, then naturally, when you don't get what you want, when the desire is not satisfied, you will suffer. But depending on the amount of attachment, okay, if the attachment is less, you will suffer less. If there is no attachment, it is possible to enjoy fully without any attachment, because you are seeing everything as having a divine presence. In fact, at that time, okay, he has described this in the synthesis. We can just, since you spoke about it, it is possible at our level, we are attached. We have likes and dislikes. Okay, someone likes sweet, someone likes bitter. They like bitter actually. Mother has given the bitter gourd. She calls that sweetness.
Yes, yes, she does. Yes.
Karela, we call it in
Karela,
India.
yes.
So there are many people who like that bitterness. Okay. Mother liked bitter. Srimdo didn't like bitter. He said, why should I take bitter when there is sweet? he was he liked sweet. But that doesn't mean to say that he was attached. Okay. So you can enjoy without any attachment. So now the lover of, when you are loving flowers, birds, okay, and nature, obviously there is an element of purity in that. Because when you love flowers, there is no attachment, you are enjoying. But where is the attachment? You don't want to possess that. It's a objective enjoyment. So certainly that is possible. But I'm not sure whether it is necessarily spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
But it's possible. But of course, when you are in the spiritual consciousness, you can enjoy everything. When the psychic being comes forward, there is certainly an enjoyment in everything. You see beauty everywhere which you did not see earlier. You see beauty in flowers, you see beauty in nature, you see beauty in animals, you see beauty everywhere when the psyche comes forward. And when you are in the cosmic consciousness, it becomes possible to even like those things which you were not liking earlier. So many different combinations and permutations are possible.
Namaste.